Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. We got Eric, we got Megan, we got Rudo coming to you live. Our first off-day pod in what feels like a long time. Lots of Avalanche hockey going on, but we figured on an off day it would be a good time to talk a little bit around the league, a little bit what's going on in the NHL outside of the Avalanche bubbles. Because let's face it, who wants to talk about a 3-game losing streak? Nobody, right? That's not a thing we care about.
No.
They are 2 overtime losses, to be fair. It's not that bad. But certainly the starting point I want to jump off from here, Avs are a whole lot better than these 2 teams. Who's worse, the Chicago Blackhawks or the San Jose Sharks?
Oh, Megan, go. You get it.
Obviously, worse is subjective.
Of course.
And the reason it feels like Chicago is because San Jose didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason to become better.
They did not.
And Chicago, obviously, drafting Bedard and making additions to their depth and their forward group on the whole suggests that there was a little bit more effort. And obviously, that has just never made a lot of sense on paper. It feels like they weren't neither team was fully committed, but San Jose at least was honest about that. And I don't think that Chicago was. And I think now the troubles of that are catching up to both teams, of course, but Chicago in particular. And it's worrisome for both teams with young players on the rise that need a little bit more support around them to succeed. And I think that's why we're seeing the results that we have. You know, the Connor Bedards of the world need decent talent around them to elevate their play and get them baptized into the National League. And I think that's just the struggles. It's in every area, right? It's not just the forward group. On D, there's a lot of question marks. With Chicago, I think Korchinski is a wonderful young player. Similar reasons, though. That is such a tough position to throw into the gauntlet too soon. And I think it's why it's such a position you want to develop very delicately. And I worry about that a little bit with Chicago, more so maybe than San Jose, because I'm not really sure what San Jose is doing right now.
I agree with you on San Jose. We'll get into that in a little bit. I want to start with Chicago, though. With Bedard, look, he's the first overall pick. He's too good. You kind of just have to do it with that guy. You have to throw him into the NHL and get what you can out of him. It felt like Chicago tried a little bit. They go out and get a Taylor Hall. Then Taylor Hall gets hurt. They go out and get some other players for depth options, really, more than to play with Connor Bedard. Obviously, the whole Corey Perry thing is its own debacle that we don't really need to talk about today. We kind of mentioned it the other day.
Donato and Dickinson.
Yeah, right. But then what are you doing with Kevin Korchinski? Lucas Reichel was a scratch the other day for them. San Jose just feels completely lost. Chicago feels like maybe there was a plan and now it's failing. I don't really know how to frame it.
Well, I mean, I was reading something about Kane saying that, because I think somebody asked him,
Sure.
did you think about going back to Chicago? I don't know if you guys read that.
Didn't.
And he said he thought that it would have gone maybe a little further, that he would have had a chance to maybe, and again, I don't think I misread it. He said that they went a different direction. And they went with veterans, right?
Yep.
Obviously, we just said it. Plus Nicky Foligno, it's a great one. Obviously, the legs are not there anymore. But no, but if you want to surround your young superstar with a solid human being, this kid's outstanding. But sorry, I'm older. This Nicky Foligno is outstanding. Gotta stop saying.
Does he
kid.
make up for Corey Perry?
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Again, I'm not bagging on Corey Perry. It just didn't work out, right? Taylor Hall got hurt.
Yep.
Sounded like Kane was saying that he would have liked to maybe, be wanted a little more. And he might have ended up there actually, because that's the difference. Connor Bedard it's attractive.
I'm sure
he's
it
a
is.
cornerstone
Yeah.
for it. He's a pillar. I don't think in San Jose they have that. I mean, again, we'll get back to San Jose, right? But that's the
Hurdle
big
be the
difference.
Closest thing, and that's
No
offense
that's
to Hurdle.
what I mean. But again, he's older, and this Connor's 18 years old. He's going to be outstanding for years. And And it's a tough league, and we talk about it all the time. It's not a very nice league when it comes down to learning on the fly. It's tough. And when you don't have the pieces around you to help you, right, with the veteran leadership, then it's kind of showing right now. And you can see the frustration. And so, I read that today too, that, and again, forget about plus minus, but Connor Bedard's only been a plus player, I think, 1 game out of the 20 or something. I mean, again, when you're on a bad team, that's what happens.
Yep.
But that's my point, is it's a tough league to learn. And he is going to learn, and you learn the hard way. And same thing with Korshinsky on D. I mean, it's a terrible position to learn on the fly as a defenseman. It's tough.
I bet.
And with, again, when you're missing all the other elements. So I think I see a little bit what, Chicago's doing because of the one big word, which is Connor Bedard.
I wanted to add to that because Caleb Jones talked about this coming from that organization. He talked about pretty candidly how they threw a rebuild at them unexpectedly. And it was a tone that wasn't good for him. I would classify it as his development too. Obviously, he's more along in his development arc as a defenseman, but he's trying to get those NHL minutes and is starting to get them at the end of his time in Chicago. And you can imagine him and Kane are not the only players saying that. Yeah. So that's a sentiment that should probably be looked at a little bit more closely in terms of the players' expectations for where Chicago is headed.
Well, and I'll go back to Chicago in a second too. Like, I've asked that myself now for a couple years, and I'm judging because I'm not in the room, so I don't know the answer. So it looks like I'm judging. But I felt that they kind of hit the reset button a few years back, and then you got to remember Kirby Dach, Hagel. Yep. I'm missing a few guys too, and it's like, wow, like what is going on? Because those were the young guys. That was their reset button. And next thing you know, they were all gone, and that's why Taves and Kane were like, what is going on here? Like, what do you mean we're resetting this? Like, you're trading away 21-year-old guys that scored 30 or whatever it was. It's kind of weird, and that's where they lost me a little bit, Chicago. Obviously, they end up with Bedard.
It's interesting. Yeah, Bedard worked out for them. But I do think you kind of see the lifespan of an NHL team there, right? Obviously, in early 2010, Chicago was borderline dynasty. Some people consider them a dynasty. Yeah. Then you get into this phase where they end up spending all of their assets to try to stay relevant, try to stay competitive, until eventually there's just nothing left. And I see the player side of it. I see you guys talking about the player side of it. But at the same time, if I'm looking at San Jose and I'm looking at Chicago, I think Chicago's the team that's going to be better faster.
Yes.
Because they committed to the rebuild. Then you have San Jose, which obviously they've been terrible this year. They've been a little better the last 10 games compared to they lost 11 in a row start the season.
That's a tough start.
But where is San Jose going? I have no idea what's next for that organization.
I'll take the lead on this one. Here's what I'll say. First of all, like Couture, your leader's hasn't been there. It makes a difference. We're talking about Bedard like surrounding with the veterans, and obviously they've hit the reset button. I mean, that is a reset.
I don't think they have yet. They still got to move some of those guys out.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, if you look at their roster at the start of the year, you're like, whoa, that's not a very...
There were no secrets about how good they were going to be. We'll leave it that way.
But that's my point. But I'll tell you one thing. Mike Greer is a very smart guy. That I'll tell you about. Smart player back then, smart person, comes from a background where the brother's the GM right in the NFL. The dad was a coach in the NFL. He's got a lot of resources. He uses his resources. He's done a good job. David Quinn, some like him, some don't like him. I do believe he does well with the younger generation. He does, being a college coach and all the recruiting process back then with the parents and all that kind of stuff. I do believe they got the right guy there. It didn't work in New York. Probably not the right place for him to be. I do believe that it is hard to look at because that's what I'm saying. Not in the room, and you're like, where's this going? Like, why is this? And I think a lot will tell you about the San Jose Sharks in my book is Mackenzie Blackwood coming up here. What are they going to do with him? If they sign him, again, you're always looking for a goalie, and he's not that old, but this guy's a good goalie. He's 6'5", like absolute, like Greek god. Like he's just physical specimen.
Yeah.
Good goaltender right now. Lots of teams are probably going. I mean, you don't think the Edmonton Oilers are calling? You would think they are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I'm not saying the Oilers are dumb. I'm saying like, if you look at rosters, which in management, that's what you do every day. You're looking at rosters and what's going on. You would think San Jose is the first guy you're calling about.
At this point, Edmonton might be calling college teams for goalies.
Well, you know what I mean, right? So it's like, are they going to re-sign? I mean, I'm San Jose. I re-sign him. I do, because this is a guy, I have stability in net now, and he's not that old. I mean, I don't know what is he, 27? Maybe Blackwood, give and take, you know.
Couldn't tell you.
I'm going to go give and take 26.
Close
27.
enough,
Yeah, he's not in his 30s. He's not 20. I just go with it. You know what I mean? Like, in a sense that I keep him and I build from the back end out. You know what I mean? And that's, you know, now you got Celebrini coming up, you know, if that's the number one consensus so far. You know what I mean? So you're getting a two-way player that's very good. And I don't think you're getting a Connor Bedard in him right now. I mean, I think he's a little bit of a level inferior to a Bedard, but there's a little
might
bit
be more than a little bit.
well, you know what I mean. I that's what I'm trying to say. He's not a generational talent like Connor Bedard, but you're getting a good player. And then all of a sudden you're building. So, but it's hard to follow. I agree, because it's kind of a ham sandwich. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, do I put mustard, mayo, lettuce? What do you want? Like,
They're just
you know
not there yet, right? Chicago, I think, has bottomed out, essentially.
Yeah.
And they're obviously still very bad this year. Like we said, you can make an argument they're worse than San Jose right now. But you can see where they're going next. San Jose still is tied to guys. Like, I don't know how they get out of some of these contracts that they're stuck with, or how they make it work with a Tomas Hertl. Hertl's an awesome player. He's got 7 years left on that deal. He'll be mid-30s by the time they turn it around. It's a hard question to answer. I just don't know where San Jose goes next beyond we need kids.
We all need kids. And that's what's interesting, too, because the cap flexibility just isn't really there. They're linked to some old contracts in Burns and Carlson.
Yes.
And I'm more encouraged by some of the forward depth they have coming up the ranks, but they just don't really have anything coming as relief at D. Yep. And that's where Chicago with a Korchinski, and I don't know how to evaluate Seth Jones, but like, that's a player that I'm not, you can sort of build around a Seth Jones to some extent. I just don't think San Jose has that. But Couture, he'll eventually be an option for them. Hertl is there. I don't know what they're doing with Thomas Bordeleau. Yeah. William Eklund's on the rise. Like, there's some forward options to get excited for in San Jose. Obviously, there are in Chicago too. But that's, I think the difference between these teams is there's just a little bit more in Chicago I could see them building around right now.
Sure.
Whereas in San Jose, kind of see the vision with the forward group. It's the D that I just don't know about. And then the goaltending, I'm excited about Blackwood and Magnus Krona. I'm sorry, I just had to say. I had to say.
I had to get it in there.
I had to get it in there. Right. So I don't know if they know what they have in Krona either, if that is a position where they feel like they could temporarily, like for assets in return for a Blackwood, maybe rely on Krona a little bit or see what they have in him first. I don't know. I'm getting excited for him. But San Jose's in a position to play around with some of this, which is why I'm confused with their utilization of Bordeleau. Unless it is for his sake.
No, but that's a good point. But I'll say, like, having lived it too, like, if I had it my way, everybody would go spend time in the American League. I'm just being honest.
Hell yeah.
I'm being honest with that. It is a different world now. It's easier back then. Remember, Detroit used to do it all the time. Nashville. Hey, the way to Nashville was through Milwaukee. Everybody said that. Everyone knew that. And also, I'm talking about all-star guys like Weber, guys that had unbelievable careers in the NHL. Everybody spent time in the American League. Now with a cap, it's a little different because you want those young guys because there are lowered salary guys and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But it's important to learn how to play hockey, and you don't know how to play until you go. Like I said, that league it's a dangerous league, and you need to go learn how to play in it where it doesn't bite you. And I got a Bordeleau. I think it's good. And by the way, I know his dad real well. You know, Montrealers, but a guy like that, even though he's on the U.S. team, he's you know, very skilled guy, just like his dad was. He's way more skilled than his dad was, And but I think it's important to go play in the American League and to fight and to dig through and to get yourself back up.
Let me ask you this then, because like you said, it used to be, you're making NHL debuts 23, 24, 25 years old. Now, most of the time, if you make it past 21, 22, you're probably not going to be an everyday NHLer. There are exceptions, of course. But let me ask you this. Should the AHL start allowing 18, 19-year-olds to play in that league? Obviously, they do for Europe, but it's the Canadian Major Junior CBA that kind of messes with that. Should they nix that?
Yeah, just because of the point you just made. You know what I mean? Because now it's so much younger. But I do believe that, and again, the CHL would be mad if they're listening to me right now, because I get it too. They're trying to, fill their buildings and provide a nice environment for their players to thrive and to get ready for the next step. But I would love that, because it makes a big difference. You know what I mean? It makes sometimes you go back there, and again, it's good. There's nothing wrong with dominating, nothing wrong with being a leader, nothing wrong with winning, and nothing wrong with leading your way, your teammates to a championship. But sometimes it is, I don't want to say waste of time, but sometimes you would be learning more if you were in the American League. And, American League is not, how can I say that, glorious at times. You know what I mean? It's tough, and it's 3 games and 3 nights, and it's some bus rides and some, and then there's no shine on your stuff because you're not in the NHL and you're in the minors, and
you gotta love it.
You gotta love it, and then you gotta fight through, and you're playing against guys sometimes that are older a bit, and they haven't had their shot, or they didn't. Sorry, I'm not that guy. For me, you create your shot, but they weren't ready for their shot. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they've been in the minors and they're good players, but they'll never touch the National Hockey League again. But don't worry, when they see a young guy like that, well, that's their prey. They like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to make it easy for them, and it's not easy. And some guys, they leave the glorious of the World Championships or the World Junior Championships. And I've seen it. I mean, it was like that back then. It still is. And then you're Team USA or Team Canada. And then all of a sudden you're on a Tuesday night in, I don't know, Ithaca, New York, and there's 150 people. And you're like, where's my World Juniors T-shirt? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? And they're like, really? You're like, this is what it's come down to? And it's pretty depressing at times. I'm nothing against Ithaca. I was just using a name on a Tuesday night. Not easy to put people in the stands in. But it's just... American League is good for the soul. It's good for everything. And again, like I said, back then, a lot more guys would spend longer time in the American League, where now they do, but it's a short period. I just wish it was longer. That's just me.
Looking at Jean-Luc Foodie's development path, coming in as young as he did, I don't know that his case is the case for every player, but I think it benefited him in a big way for his development arc to go to the American League as young as he did. Because I do think mentally, he matured quickly, adjusting to that league, and had a lot of older veteran mentors to help him and usher him to the place that he needed to get to and develop those pro habits in a way that I feel like we look at his timeline and we're not really panicking that Foodie hasn't stuck in the NHL this point into his pro year path, because one, obviously the injury this year has really affected his trajectory. But starting as early as he did, I think it bought him a little bit of time, but it was really useful experience at the pro level, because the things that he needed to incorporate in his game, I think he only could do at the pro level. It's the pro habits, and it's the third, fourth line habits. And I think that is learned by playing among men. And I think that's why it was helpful for Foodie in particular.
But I'm going to go back to that point, because again, how can I say that? I think the American League, for those reasons that you just talked about, and it's very important to have the good leaders too. And Brad Hunt, for example, it doesn't get any better than Huntsy. You know what I mean? And I go back to me for a second, and I always remember, you know what I mean? And I think the American League allows you to figure out what's your identity as a pro. Way easier to do in the American League and to figure out than in the National Hockey League. As we know, Bedsy has no time. Bednar, right? Not Connor Bedard, but right. They has
Too many beds.
In this
He has
house,
no
it's
time.
one Betsy.
And he always says that you don't learn on the fly in the NHL. You know what I mean? Like when you're trying to be a championship,
You're just
team.
trying to survive out there.
You don't. Well, the American League allows you, like, I left college and Mark Crawford's my coach, right, former Avs, and he said to me, like, what are you? And I'm like, well, I'm a skilled guy, power play, like whatever. And I think I've said it before on the show, and then he stopped me right away and he's like, if you go on the power play, I'm getting fired. I got a wife and 3, or whatever at the time, 2 kids. And he's like, I'm never doing that. That's not what you are. You are a shit bag. And you know what I mean? And that's, you figure it out. Because if you think you're going to be a skilled player in the National Hockey League, you'll never play. And that conversation, it's frank, it's honest.
Yep.
And it takes a while to figure it out. And you don't go home that day, the next day, like, oh, I'm going to change my identity. It takes a little bit of time. And once you figure it out, then you become, for me, a prospect that's useful for a team. And that's where I think some of those guys are, like Foodie and, company.
And just as the exact opposite comparison to Fuda, you look at Jeremy Hansel this year. Not saying that the junior league is somewhere where he can't get better. He can work on his game there. He can improve on things. But he doesn't have the same opportunity to impress the people that are watching him, that are looking to sign him to his contract, to take that next step in the Avalanche organization. Because the reality of him still being in juniors is that he's supposed to dominate every night down there. Whereas with Foodie, you have seen him clearly take steps at the AHL level through his career so far. So I just think it's an interesting comparison. It's an interesting way to look at I even look at top guys. Like I said, first overall picks, they just go to the NHL. It's what happens. It's what's always going to happen for the most part. But you take a look at a Cale Makar who spends an extra year in college. You take a look at some of these players that have done a good job of figuring out what the development path should be for themselves.
Even Rantanen.
Yeah.
Spends a little time in the American League.
Yep, absolutely.
Huge.
Yep.
It is huge. Like, it is. I used to give it to Denmarsh all the time. We used to call him Silver Spoon. You know what I mean? Like, because he didn't. He went right to the NHL, and most of us didn't. You know what I mean? But but I don't know. I think there's a bond between American Hockey League guys and you know what I mean? Because it's usually you're younger, not married, no kids or whatever. Usually, so you spend more time together. There's a lot of card games in the back of those bus rides, and it's fun. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's less of a business.
Yeah.
And the friendships are formed that are real strong and usually last for a lifetime. So it's, again, I got nothing but good things to say about the American League. So,
fun fact, you can bet on the American League with Bet365.
Can you?
Yeah. They don't have quite all the fancy props and all that, but you can bet on the games. You can get in on it. So if you're watching someone play in Ithaca, maybe throw a bet down. You can also bet on the Colorado Eagles, too, the local team, which, I hope Sam Malinsky stays with the Avs.
Yeah.
But I would expect
But I
him to be
hope
back
it
down
means
there.
that Cale Makar is healthy.
Yeah, exactly. So, is what it is on that front. Either way, whatever you're betting on, NHL, AHL, NFL, NBA, why do they all start with N? Except they're national leagues. I get it. MLS, even though, like, most of them also have Canadian teams, so they're like international. And bet on it with Bet365.
Wait, is the NFL the only one without a Canadian team or a team without a team outside of the U.S.?
Yep.
Don't.
NFL's full of Canadian players anyway.
It's Canadian's national
3?
pastime, isn't it?
It's the 3 in it.
The Canadian Football League
Not a
is
lot.
basically like the AHL to the NFL. So
Bigger end zones.
Isn't like
Field
football
goal.
Canada's like national sport or something like
thought it
that?
was
I read it
lacrosse.
I think
somewhere.
it's lacrosse.
It might be
Lacrosse
lacrosse.
is, lacrosse.
You can bet on lacrosse too with Bet365. Get over there, download the app today, use the DNVR365 code when you sign up to get a bunch of amazing boosts, including a 30% parlay boost on your NHL bets. So jump on it. Use Bet365 today. Of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER today. And then, with the money you win, take it on over to Game Time and get yourself some tickets to go watch the games you're betting on. You can get $20 off your first purchase at Game Time when you use code DNVR when you sign up. And you can get the best prices around when it comes to tickets. You can get them the last day, kind of wait for those last-minute deals. You can use the section selector, which saves 18% on average. You can do all sorts of other things to save money with Game Time. And the best part is, if you find tickets cheaper somewhere else, Game Time will reimburse you 110% of the ticket price to make sure you're always getting the best deals at Game Time. So use that DNVR code. Go download Game Time today. Even if it's not sporting events, you can go to the theater or concerts or whatever you want to go to through Game Time. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. We've talked about the worst. I want to talk about the best now. You have 4 division leaders in the NHL. Vegas, the Avalanche, New York Rangers, and the Boston Bruins. Which of these? I want a rankings. Most legit to least legit of the division leaders in the NHL.
We got what? You say it again. You got Avs, Rangers.
Avs, Rangers, Vegas, and Boston.
All right. I'll go first.
I'll go if you guys need to think about it. Or
Go.
Yeah, okay. All right. My legitness factor, Vegas 1, Avs 2, Rangers 3, Boston 4. Why? Let me be clear. I think they're all very good teams. I'm not saying any of these don't deserve to be at the top of their divisions. Vegas, obviously a defending Stanley Cup champs. They continue to be very good. Both them and Boston have gotten similarly very good goaltending coming through, but Vegas just has everything set up, I think, a little bit better. A little bit more of living up to expectations in Vegas, whereas Boston, I believe, is overperforming a little bit. Avs, we've talked about plenty. We all know where they stand. I think we all feel pretty comfortable with them, certainly when they're fully healthy, certainly when they're playing well, even if there is a bit of inconsistency there. The Rangers are the team I really don't know what to make of. Are they really this good? They might be. Obviously, you love their goaltending when Shesterkin is on. Their forward core and defense have played super well so far this year. How sustainable is it for them? I don't know. If you guys want to jump on the Rangers, go for it. If you want to do your ranking lists, I'm here either way.
I'll give it to Megan.
I feel like, so you had Vegas, Colorado, Rangers, Boston?
Correct.
Mine would probably follow the exact same order, with 1 and 2 being, I don't know, I think I'd put the Avs at 1. I do believe Vegas is very well constructed, and all of these teams are rightfully in the conversation and where they're at in the standings. I think that the Avs, when fully healthy, I hate that we still use that as a qualifier even this season.
Have to, yeah.
Have the edge in its top stars, its top guys. Because I think both teams have good depth. I think Vegas has the better depth. They're both pretty solid defensively, and Vegas has received good goaltending. This is an area for the Avs that I think we haven't seen the best of yet. I even reflect on Kemper's first season with the Avs, and I think that was something that aged throughout the season even better. And I think we'll see that with Georgiev. I look at his last year, and I think there's more consistency that he can strike for the Avs, and being more of an impact player in games too. And then just going back to the top stars who we've criticized for not being as impactful lately, I still look at the 55-goal season of Mikko Rantanen among all of the injuries of last year, and I think that it's a lineup that has more to give from the top. There's still some concern with maybe some of the new additions, but I also feel like that can be a strength of the Avs moving forward, deep in a playoff run. I could see that third line in particular being a strength against a well-constructed Vegas team. And then looking at the Rangers, every arena, I like the Rangers. Like, I think they've got some intriguing forward options. They've got, obviously, Adam Fox on D is an exciting player, some great goaltending from Shesterkin. So I think it's well constructed. It's just, I've seen how they moved all the chips to the table last year, and they had all the big name players that you could think of to take them across the finish line, and they lacked I don't know if I want to go this far, but I feel like they lacked that mentality that you look at in the Avs room. There are players who've made it across the finish line. And that's what I feel like New York lacked. and continues to lack. Like, they have a lot of the talent in Panarin and Kreider, but I just think that it's the mental side of being able to go across the finish line that's lacking there. And with Boston, excellent goaltending, good D, interesting forward group. I think that they just didn't adequately have a response for losing Bergeron.
Yep.
And it's still good. And they're still obviously great on paper. That's an excellent, probably the best goaltending tandem in the NHL in Boston. But the forward group is just, it's not bad. It's just like not as competitive maybe with the Avs top 6, just by comparison.
You can only live on 940 goaltending for so long, even if they're the best tandem in the world.
That's true.
It's impressive for now.
It is. The goalie hugs are impressive too.
Yeah.
They get bigger, like they get bigger, you know. So no, I like it. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna go Avs 1. And because
No
I've been
doubt about it.
No
huh?
doubt about it.
All right.
Been saying it all year long, so I gotta stick with it that they're coming out of the West. So Vegas is in the West.
They are.
I think both teams have known how to win now last 2 years. You're talking about the last 2 cup chances. This is not a big statement for me, but once you know how to win, it makes you even more dangerous. So those 2 teams for me are 1 and 2. Everybody healthy, Vegas included. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll take the Avs right now in a 4 out of 7 series, and that's just me. Last time they met, it was obviously Vegas that won
In 6.
In 6. When it was 2-0, correct?
Yeah, Avs are up 2-0.
You learn to win when you lose, right? We all know that, and that goes for Vegas as well. That goes for anybody. I will go 1 Avs, 2 Vegas. 3, I'll go Rangers. I think.
I do.
Can't read.
I hate goaltenders. I'll say it.
Yeah.
I hate them.
What does it say? What do you have?
That's a direct quote. I hate goaltenders.
Oh, God,
Rudo.
Rudo. My son's a goalie. You hate my son?
Wow.
Can
hate
you
his
milk your
son?
cat, Rudo?
It's the only position in life that prevents you from reaching your goals. All right.
True. Either way.
Interesting.
Cops. You're at Robert Cops.
You might have chosen bad goals then. Yeah.
All right, but I'll go back to.
My goals are never very good.
Anyway.
I'll go back. I'm going back to, and then the Rangers. Again, I'm going to throw Avs stuff in there. Chris Drury. Chris Drury's a winner. Rob Blake used to say, like, that was his roommate. And he sleeps angry. You know what I mean? Like, he's a little ball of hate. You know
That's
what I mean?
relatable.
And he just kind of went in there, and he's a GM now.
Yep.
He's cleaning things up, things that he doesn't like, whether it's in the bathroom, in the hallway, and the staff, like everywhere. Wants winners, and I think he's made it very known that they're learning how to win now. I think they are legit. I think bringing in Jonathan Quick was a weird thing at the first, but forget about
It certainly worked.
It worked. No, yeah, it's working on the ice, but I think more off the ice.
Sure.
It's
I
a
could see
big,
that.
It's a
Yeah.
big thing.
He's a winner, for
He's a winner, and he's a warrior. I mean, this is a guy that, again, went in there in LA back then. There was a silver spoon in front of him. No offense, right? What's his name? I mean, former Av.
You're going to have to be more specific.
My Lord. Jonathan Bernier.
Okay.
No offense to Jonathan. Good guy, I'm saying. But he was a first rounder, right?
Yep.
Top 10 pick. Very shiny. Quick, he was a third round pick, whatever he was. And he's a no-name coming in there and stole the job from. And they ended up trading Jonathan Bernier.
Yep.
And Quickie was there for 10 years at 2 cups, and he's a cult hero in LA. So he goes to Vegas last year. He helped those guys out. He helped the Hills of the world. He helped with the problems that the guys getting injured. And that's why when you say locker room, you know, that's a guy with the Rangers. He knows how to win. It's fitting the Drury, what he's trying to do. So I would say Rangers 3. And again, 4, I'm going to go Boston. I said last year they wouldn't make the playoffs. They got the freaking record of the most points in the history of the league, and I was there for 4 of the first 10 games last year. Spent a lot of time in Boston, and I'm like, they have no one playing, and they're winning every game. I'm like, what the hell? They do a masterful job coaching. Again, I'm going back to the Avs, and Joe Sacco.
More Jim Montgomery.
I just-
love.
Yeah.
I mean, and Joe does a good job. Joe Sacco. I don't care what people say. Like, might not be a head coach, but he does a great job. He's a great hockey mind. And then when you're adding all that, like with the goaltending, so it's hard to bet against them. You know what I mean? Like, so, but I mean, are they going to go all the way? That's why I would say no. And that's why I have them as 4. You know what I mean? So
I think they love playing for Monty. I do. I think they
does a good
rally.
job, yeah.
They rally around him.
Boston to me feels the least sustainable. I would put it that way. The Rangers, I actually tend to agree with Megan more on this one. I wonder about if that team has the right mindset to go all the way there. And look, I'm sure Chris Drury does in the front office. I'm sure Jonathan Quick knows what it takes to win. But
Yeah.
I look at the top players on that team. Artemi Panarin wanted to go to New York because he likes the lifestyle. Not that he isn't an incredible player.
Yeah.
But you see it in the Avalanche. You saw it in Nathan McKinnon in the Cup here. It takes a specific type of extreme focus where you have to think about nothing else. You want to win the Cup. That's the only thought you think when you wake up. That's the only thought you think when you go to bed. That's what it takes to win a championship. And I just don't know if the Rangers have that.
I think it was interesting because someone specifically mentioned Kane and his 3 cups.
Yep.
And it made me think how every Nathan McKinnon needs an Andrew Cogliano.
True.
They get over that hump in the playoffs because of the rallying cry of Cogliano. And so it's the Cogliano types that I think is missing in the New York lineup, not the Nathan McKinnons. Like, yes, the skill is there in the Panarin and the Kane.
Definitely.
But, not anymore. But that wasn't enough. You need more than that.
Yep.
You need the Andrew Coglianos of the world. Now, Quick is an interesting example that I didn't factor into that, but I still think on the whole, it's obviously bigger than just single-handedly Cogliano too.
Of course. It takes a whole team to win a chip, for sure. I bring this up because the team I left off this list, I feel the exact same way about. Dallas Stars. This is now a running theme for this core of the Dallas Stars. You're looking at Sagan and Ben, who have been there for over a decade,
Right.
have never been able to get it over the finish line. You look at some of their new guys, and you know, maybe Jason Robertson can get them there. Maybe Jake Ottinger can help get them there. Yeah. But you add Joe Pavelski to that list. You start to have a long list of guys who, as the way Eric would put it, they're not winners.
Well, Dallas for me, God, I'm going to sound rude here. Like, I don't like them. No, and it's
That's
nothing.
mean.
Jim Nill's a great hockey man, great hockey mind. I just, there's no, and there's no reason why I don't like them. I don't know. Like, since the bubble and, which I thought was so gimmicky and, yeah, right. I mean, the whole world was upside down, so I'm not blaming anyone, but it was just so weird. And I'm like, I didn't like them then. And they beat the Avs, right? They, and I'm like, I don't know. I still don't like them. I'm not dislike, but not like. I don't like that. They don't scare me. I don't know how to explain it. It's just I just overlooked them, and maybe, hopefully, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Hopefully, I'm right. Hopefully, I'm not wrong. Right? Watch my words here.
Depends on who you're rooting for.
That's right. No, but again, as obviously being a Western Conference opponent of the Avs and stuff like, they just don't scare me. They don't, the one thing I like about them is Ottinger. And I liked him in the minors when he was there for a bit. I liked him at BU. I liked him. I'm a fan of his. You know what I mean? Other than that, I respect Joe Pavelski for what he's done. Obviously, Robertson's a good player. But I just don't know why. I'm not scared by them. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying they're not good. I'm saying that, sure, bring them on. If you got to play them in a playoff series, bring them on. I'm not scared about it.
It's an interesting point from Kay here in the chat, who does rightfully say the same things were said about the Avs until they won their cup 2 years ago. I think the difference for me is when you look at the timing of the Avs Cup run, there were starting to be conversations about the Avs not being able to get out of the second round at that point, but it hadn't boiled over to this level that Dallas has been at for a little while now. Obviously, the all-time team for this is the Leafs, who just seem incapable of taking that step to get over the hump. And this is where I wonder about Dallas, is at what point do you just not have the right mix of guys and have to do a bit of a reset? Maybe not go full San Jose, but do a bit of a reset.
I mean, they're inevitably looking at it a little bit because I don't know how many more years Pavelski has left.
Can't be that many, right?
But I do think that he's a really important piece in their success. I don't know how to feel. Like, Ben and Sagan have the years, but I don't know if they have the influence. Like, they even lose Ben in the playoffs because of disciplinary things, which Avs have experienced in a good player in Kadri. Like, I won't pretend that this isn't a thing that they can't overcome ever. But I think that the part that makes Dallas dangerous to me and a little bit scary in my eyes is the experience of last year's playoffs for players like Robertson and Ottinger.
Sure.
I do think that probably hardened them as young players that are newly learning this and experiencing that for the first time. And I think that can be really formative, and it could change what a playoff. They've now have a little bit of experience under their belt in that type of hockey specifically, that I think they would meet it differently a second time around. And I do have belief in Robertson and Hintz and Ottinger. There's pieces I very begrudgingly like about Dallas. Now, the overarching concerns are still there on the whole, though. It takes a whole team to have the right mindset.
Yep.
So that still remains. I think that there are players there, though, that probably learned some really valuable lessons last year that I would be a little bit fearful of going into a playoff series.
By no
this year.
means am I saying they'd be an easy out.
No,
for sure.
I don't think you're right. No one would say that.
I'm going back to your point because I loved it. Well, not your point, but Kay's point, right?
Yeah.
Which was about until you do it, right?
Yep.
I'm just trying to read it, and you guys know I can't read. So
Up at the
until
top.
they did it,
Yeah.
yeah. So Kay's right, because you don't know. Is it fair for us to judge the Toronto Maple Leafs? You know what I mean? It is fair because they've never done it. That core's never done it. And it hasn't been 1 year. It's been multiple years. And in our business, unfortunately, or fortunately, you get judged on who wins the last game. That's it.
Yep.
Other than that, it has to be a failure. It has to be, because your goal is to win the ultimate last game of the season. And if that's not your goal, that doesn't fuel you, then you shouldn't work in this business.
You'll never
right?
make it. Yeah.
Of course, you can sit back afterwards and you were a bad team, a 48-point season team, the Avalanche, and then the next season you have, whatever it was, the turnaround. It was like, okay, there's a silver lining. Okay, we're building towards it. But ultimately, it's you want to win the whole thing. So I agree. Until you do it, you don't know what you have.
Yeah.
For me, the ultimate warrior, the ultimate winner is Patrick Roy as a player. You got one game to take, he's my guy.
Yeah.
100%. He's my guy. But if you look at his stats in junior hockey, this guy was horrific. I think he won 6 games 1 year, and then his last year in juniors, he lost 55 games. And you're talking about a guy that at the end of the year, they went in the American League when he was 19 because his season was over because they didn't make the playoffs. Trust me, Granby Bisons were not in the playoffs. We were way at the bottom. He goes there, and 2 guys are sick, the 2 goalies, and he's eating hot dogs and whatever, his French fries, and that's why his nickname, but the fries go into the little cardboard thing, you know what I mean? That's his
For
nickname.
poutine, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. That's his nickname, Casso. Like it's the cardboard. That's his nickname. Because he's always eating French fries. Next thing you know, they're like, hey, you get in the net. Then he goes in there.
Hold on. His nickname in the English is Frybox.
Yeah, fry box. Yeah, it is.
How did we not know this?
Yeah. Well, everyone knows that in Montreal. Casso, Cassecau, which is fry box. I never looked at it that way, but it's his nickname.
Amazing.
If you say Casso in Montreal, everyone knows, Patrick Roy. Yeah.
That's
but I'm telling
wild.
you, he's eating his French fries onto the fry box, whatever, and then you get in the net, and he's like, what? And he goes, wins the game. And the next night, they're like, to the 2 guys that were injured, which was not very legal, they were sick. They're like, yeah, you both are sick still. Oh. They ended up being sick the whole playoffs. They won the Calder Cup. Sherbrooke Canadians won the Calder Cup. And look that up. You don't know until you go and do it. And then all of a sudden, he's like, oh, my God, they started the season as a 20-year-old Montreal. They're keeping him as the 3rd goalie. Playoffs start. Larry Robinson goes to see the coach, and he's like, he played 25 games or 30 games that year. This guy knows how to win. He's our guy.
Yeah.
They go win the Stanley Cup. So you don't know until, and that's why I say that point, as individuals, as a team, until you do it. Alex Ovechkin, for years, people were saying, You'll never win with Alex Ovechkin. All of a sudden you win, and why do you think he went on a bender like he did? Like, it's a lot of pressure, and you're like, yeah, I did it. You know what I mean? But it took what, 15 years? Or
The
whatever
majority
it was,
of his career?
13 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So until you do it, Toronto, like, I mean, but when do you break that up, right? How long do you wait? You know
This
what I mean?
this coming off season, I think, is when it gets broken
Right,
up,
it's just
but-
hard. Those are tough jobs. That's why there's
Yeah.
only 32 seats, you know, in the world.
Yep.
And those are tough seats to be in. Talk about GMs, and there's a lot of pressure. And which button do you press? And so I think it's a valid point there. And you were saying that, and Kay brought that up. But it's until you do it, you're assuming they can do it. You know, because you're sticking with them.
Yep.
You know, same thing with McKinnon and those guys. And it's like, are we going to win with those guys or Landeskog? Are they, you know, all of a sudden you win, then you're like, oh yeah, they're winners. You know what I mean? Which, that's how we're judged.
I look at Vegas and Aiden Hill and
That's it.
the unlikely winner in
Yes.
this goaltender that they
Yes.
take from San Jose.
Yeah.
Such an unlikely path for him.
Totally.
And he's continued to be good for them. And I think that speaks to the mindset in Vegas on the whole, too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's maybe when we're talking about some of these teams, there are players who are individually winners, but
Yeah.
it's a team-wide mindset that is important. And I think that's why Vegas was able to accomplish what they did and
Yeah.
why teams like Dallas might be struggling still to get there.
Yep.
And again, you go back to Gretzky, right?
Oh,
he
sure.
says it all the time. It's in everything that he talks about, books, whatever. They learned in '84 when they lost to the Islanders, right? 4 straight. And then they were walking by their locker room and they're thinking that the guys are going to be having a big party and it's nuts. And he was like, guys were just there with their ice bags. And they're like, oh my God. Like, it's hard to win. You know what I mean? And then you realize, like, okay, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we have another notch. We have another step,
Yep.
right?
You're not there yet until you're there.
Yep.
On that note, speaking of big parties, we're having a takeover on the 9th of December. You can get in with us. You can come down to Ball Arena. You can enjoy an Avs game with us. It includes drinking at the bar before the game. You get free beers on the bus to the game. You get to enjoy the game with the DNVR gang. And you get to come back from the game on the bus, enjoying yourself and have some more drinks. It's a great time. If you've experienced one with us before, you would know. We have fun with it. But you can join us on the 9th. Tickets are discounted now. You can get in for this game with us and all the bus rides for just $80. So jump on it. Join us December 9th. Avs have never lost when we've done a takeover. So there you go.
What, you
Even
want to see it
Yaya's
without a
gonna
shirt
go.
on?
Whoa.
I have never been to an Avs game.
What?
I was with you guys for a whole year.
What?
Never been to an Avs game. Watched Avs for the last 5-6 years. Never been there. Really learned about hockey with Rudo and AJ. So I'm thinking of going to this one and just getting hammered and not
Miss
remembering
him
my
win
name.
the cup because you're at your wedding.
I mean, no. I got to see the cup, win them the cup, but I missed game 5. I think
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Slacker.
Oh yeah, my wife.
Either way, come join us for the takeover. It's going to be a fun one. December 9th is the first one. You also get a $25 Snarf's gift card for coming with us. So, there's no reason not to go at that point. Your stuff is well and paid for. Also brought to you by Bacchus and Shanker. Go call 222-2222 today if you've ever tried to leave the Ball Arena parking lot. You might need Bacchus and Shanker because it's a madhouse. Go to coloradolaw.net or call the 2 number today. If you've been in any situation where you've been injured and you're not at fault, car accident, something happened at work, the snow on the ground, someone didn't shovel their sidewalks, any of those things are options. They will give you a free consultation, and if you have a case, they will make you pay nothing up front. It costs you nothing until you win your case. They don't get paid until you get paid, and they will get you paid. They've won over $1 billion for their clients as long as they've been doing it here in Colorado. Get with Bacchus and Shanker. Bacchus and Shanker wins. And then hit up some Breck Brew. We're going to be drinking lots of Breck Brew for the takeover. 8 different kinds here on tap. Even if you're not local, you can still get your Breck Brew and drink along, though, at your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online at breckbrew.com. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Be a little bit more brief with this one, but I did want to talk about a couple of the teams in the middle, more specifically Detroit. They go out, they get Patrick Kane. Are they a playoff team? Let's start there. Do you guys think the Detroit Red Wings are a playoff team this year?
I'll go first. I think they're going to get in. Yeah,
Okay.
which I didn't think they would.
Sure.
Do I think that they're contenders? No, I think their goaltending subpar. You know what I mean? Again, today, 96 goaltending Avalanche, I would say average. In December, they make a trade.
Gets a little better.
So, like today, I'm just saying, you know, do I like DeBrincat? Do I like Larkin? I mean, those guys are playing they're having career. I mean, Larkin's having a career year, correct? I mean, like, you know, that's your engine. That's your best guy. They've added some guys, you know, over the last couple of years, and obviously they're a tougher out than they were a couple of years ago. You know, guys like David Perron and, you know, guys like that. So, do I think their goaltending is going to hold? Like, I'm not a big Husso. I think he's a backup in my mind. Hopefully,
I don't think he's certainly not a contending starter.
That's
put
what
it that way.
And then is it Reimer? You know, like, you know,
He's been a backup his whole career.
that's my point. You know, so I would say, but I like that. I like Kane's going to give them a boost. Again, you're talking about being a winner, Steve. I got a lot of respect for Steve Yzerman. I do. As a player, as a manager, he's worked hard. As a player, he's worked hard as a manager. Has made mistakes, has made good moves, understands what it is. So obviously he has a pulse on his team, and he felt that, you know, getting Kane is going to be a boost for his team. And obviously Kane's been around too. So for him to say, yeah, I'm going to join that team, it's a testament to where they are right now, you know, compared to a couple years ago. So yeah, kudos on them. I think they get in.
Is it a testament, or are they just a half decent team that had $10 million in cap space?
Well, I mean, that's part of it, right? You know, everything part of it. So, yeah, you're right.
Megan, where are you at with the Kane and the Detroit situation?
You know, I just haven't loved their offseason moves because it feels like they weren't very intentional. It feels like
was a
they were
shotgun
picking
blast,
best
for sure.
available players and not seeking positional needs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at the construction, and it makes some sense. So it's not totally wrong, but it still doesn't feel like there's an identity for Detroit that I can get behind. There's some individual pieces that make so much sense. Like DeBrincat is playing very well, and Larkin is playing well. Comfer has been a wonderful addition for them. And
we'll see.
I trust what Comfer is to an extent, but I didn't trust him as a 2C. Like, I trusted him as a utility player that would slide up between both 2C, 3C, PK, power play. You can use him so many different ways, and I still trust that. But I don't know if he can carry the position of 2C in the way that they need.
When he has his stretch of 4 points in 15 games, every Avs fan will be going, yep,
That's
we know that guy.
That's familiar, right? The goaltending is suspect. The D is just fine. I love Mo Seider. I believe in him. He's still
the
young.
rest of the
I
D.
don't believe in Tarot. I don't. And so that's why, like, it's good. They're moving in the right direction. I just feel like they need to get a little bit more intentional with the identity behind it. And there's some good pieces to work with. I'm just not a total believer in Detroit. I think they've been a little bit silly.
I love that. I think identity is the perfect word for what they're lacking a little bit. We had a question from Philip here that I actually thought was a little bit interesting. If you scroll up a little bit, asking about Tatar with the Avalanche and what the plan is. So here's the thing. Is he playing with top 6 players? Yes. Is he really playing in the top 6, though? No. He's not getting that level of time on ice. He played 10 minutes the other night. And the answer is, I don't know what you do with Tatar right now. I would love to see him get some more opportunity. You would love to see him figure it out here in Colorado. But we're now 24 games into the season. If this goes on for another 10 games, at what point do the Avs have to start looking elsewhere?
It feels like a little bit of a mismatch stylistically, and I'm not ready to put a stamp on that and declare that officially, but I still see an NHL player in Tomas Tatar, and a good one. It's just what they need him to be in a second line role. I feel like he's struggling to acclimate there. Like, we talk about how he goes games without registering a shot on net, and he was brought in because of his shot. And so I'm not sure what it is that we're just not seeing him really lean into his own identity as a player with the Avs that is causing him to be sheltered. He's not earned trust, and I think he's been too neutral as a player to earn any more trust than he has, because he needs to impact the game, obviously, in a positive way, but he also in an effort to be responsible, can't be invisible. And I think that's what has costed him ice time through this point. And it could ultimately be a little bit of a mismatch. I don't know the remedy for it. It kind of is in Tomas Tatar's hands, but I'd like to see him, with the limited ice time that he has, maybe feel a little bit of a chip on his shoulders. He is still a 20-goal scorer coming onto this team. That's why he was brought to Colorado, and it is a team that has winning aspirations. And so I hope that can motivate him to try and be a little bit more impactful, even if the ice time is limited, because that's his path to getting more.
Well, not the first guy, not the last guy that goes somewhere and it doesn't work out. Tomas Tatar went from Detroit to Vegas, and it was a disaster in Vegas. They gave up a first, a second,
And a third.
for him. And it got to the point where he was not a fit. It was the misfits at the time, and he came in and didn't know where to put him. A little bit like right now, it's just not a fit anywhere. He's kind of going in. Goes to Montreal after played really solid, and then goes to Jersey last year, 50 points, right? Last couple of seasons of Jersey. He's a good player. He's a good person. It just hasn't been a fit for whatever reason. Do I think they keep going for another 20 games? No, I say it's coming to an end. That's just what
One way
I think.
or another,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I like him. I think he's a
too.
good teammate. I think he's a good player. He can give you a lot in a lineup, but he's been in that situation before. And then like I said, he went to Montreal and he was a great fit. You know what I mean? And then it hasn't worked out. And now I think his body language he's a happy-go-lucky, smiley guy. And right now he looks a little tense. He looks like you see after he misses an empty net, like his face is like, oh, you got to be kidding me. Like, because it is tough. There's a lot of pressure to score in the National Hockey League. And when you're not scoring, then, don't think he doesn't know. Josh Manson got his goal last night. He's the only guy basically now besides
Of the regulars,
Of the
he's the
regulars,
only guy.
Dermy's got one. I mean, like I'm just saying, So it's tough. It's tough. You see that. You want to contribute. You were brought in. You took a gamble on yourself as well. We don't know what the situation was. We don't know if he wasn't given a $3 million contract or whatever it was. And he's like, I'm going to bet on myself. Hasn't worked out. So I don't think it's going to be much longer. I think that something needs to be done there, and again, he's not the first guy, he's not the last guy. And I'll throw in another old name, like Brian Ralston back then on the Ray Borg trade. Good NHL player, comes here, couldn't play here. It looked like a minor leaguer. Like he was awful. And Raleigh's a great player. He couldn't play. Then he goes to Boston.
Goes right back to being.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Brian Ralston played another 10 years after that. So sometimes it's not your fault. It's not Betsy's fault. It's just not a fit, and it's just not working out for whatever the reasons are.
I will say in a little bit of his defense, you talked about lack of identity in Dallas. Colorado as a team does not lack identity. Colorado's second line this year lacks some identity.
It's a great point, Ruda.
Just speed, right?
On a good night, Ryjo is the identity, but there's some pretty big inconsistency there. Jonathan Druid, you're up, you're down. Tomas Tatar, you're up, you're down. You're seeing some of these guys be second liners, but they're playing 12 minutes a night. It's just a little all over the place right now.
That's where I'm sympathetic for Tatar and Drouin, because I feel like Drouin's confidence starts to show when he was given more time.
Yep.
He was given power play opportunity. He was given second line opportunity, and he started to thrive there. And with Tatar and being limited, I think that's a little bit what has held both of those players back through this point. And it's not to blame Bednar purely. The circumstances have required him to mix things up a little bit, and it's just a little bit unfortunate how it has shaken out.
Yeah. And again, these are not major concerns for me in any way for Colorado. Ryjo's a guy who's been up and down. Still got 9 goals on the season, 10 points, on his way to a 40-point year. You'd like more, but it's also not horrible. We'll see how it all plays out. But you are starting to get into that territory of, hey, if it goes another 10 games, you probably have some trade deadline targets and things like that in mind. Leave it at that.
Yep.
We have gone a little bit long here. Anything else you guys want to add to the show?
No.
Let's go. We're going to get out of here. Before we go, make sure you hit up Kind Love. You can go to their locations or go online to kindlove.com and use the DNVR code to get 25% off, whether it be flour, gummies, extracts, whatever it is you might need. Kind Love has you covered. Go check them out. Their turbo joints are amazing. All sorts of other stuff. Full ordering menu on kindlove.com. 25% off with the DNVR code. We appreciate y'all. It's game day again tomorrow. The schedule picks up now. It's every other day for the rest of time until Christmas, basically. So we appreciate y'all. Stick with us here. Like and subscribe to the channel if you like us. That helps us out a ton. Join us for the takeover if you're local. We will talk to you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.